Hi there again. As I promised, I would speak about Module 3 and the Module 3 discussion. In the Module 3 discussion, it was from Chapter 3. The title of the discussion or the chapter was The Self, Social, and Moral Development. The beginning of the chapter was all about Piaget and Vygotsky. It covered their ideas or theories on learning. So it was cognitive learning that we're studying again, or still. It hones in on Piaget and his ideas and Vygotsky and his ideas or theories. There's videos that I've posted also to kind of help you expand that information. And again, there's tons and tons of information about these two gentlemen. They happen to be some of the bigger theorists within education. They should be people that you should be considering listing on that matrix, the theorist matrix, just because their ideas and theories will come up again in education as well as on the PLT. So you definitely want to know the similarities and differences with regard to those two individuals. I start with Piaget and I think about his ages and stages. He is very concrete, and so if you think about the way he plans out development cognitively, it looks like a staircase. So he thinks people get through various stages. He thinks play is very important, active play. So does Vygotsky, but Vygotsky looks at development more as a line going up, a continuous line. And he brings in this idea of culture and society, and then you can look at that again in the chapter when you talk about Bonfenbrenner in his bioecological model. He was one of the first persons theory-wise to study development and how this greater outer shell started with this outer society and then families and then the individual, and then he also encompassed culture and society. So Vygotsky kind of started that. If you read about Vygotsky's life, it's kind of a tragic situation. He died early at the age of 38, and he had published a lot of works. Both of these were very accomplished gentlemen. If you read about Piaget and Vygotsky, they have some interesting little tidbits about them, and then that's how I remember them. So the beginning of the chapter does talk to Piaget and Vygotsky, their ideas on learning, cognitive learning. One of the things you may see again over and over would be this idea of ZPD, or zone of proximal development, and that goes back to Vygotsky and his theory on the zone of proximal development, or sometimes called the magic middle, would be where learning occurs, and so the student knows a concept, let's say 2 plus 2. And maybe the objective for that day is to take 2 and divide it, or subtract it, or add it. It's probably going on to subtraction. And so students know one thing, the 2 plus 2, and they don't know the 2 minus 2. Or whatever that day's objective is. So basically the information in between where the student is struggling to figure out how to do the problem, they're starting to become a little bit frustrated, is called the zone of proximal development. And that level of frustration is actually good for student learning, but if it goes past the point of just shutdown, then it's not. And so students will seek outside help from teachers, and that's where our job is to support, but also our job is to encourage them to go to peers and perhaps find different methodologies to solve the problem that we ourselves can't provide. And I'm a huge advocate of using cooperative learning groups or using a peer in the classroom that can perhaps teach the content better than you can, whether that's end of the day work, bell work, or something like that where students can use each other as resources. Because you're not only the source of knowledge in your classroom, and I think a lot of times we forget that. So, but I remember as a math student, I'd always learn better from a peer than sometimes the teacher. So that zone of proximal development is really important, and I'm sure you will hear that again, and then that goes back to Vygotsky. The second part of the chapter is about cliques and peer groups and their influences on our students, and that brings up a whole other avenue of development in the fact that the book states, and a lot of human growth classes that I've had actually state that as a teacher or a parent you have less influence than peer groups do and how much they affect our students. And I also think we could bring in the ideas of media and society and how that is affecting our students. And just to make a blanket statement or an overall statement is I really do believe you can help your students in the classroom. A lot of students will look to you and your actions and how you conduct your life. And sometimes it's not something you say, it's purely something you do. And I think at all ages and stages, we have to realize as teachers that all eyes are on us, whether we like it or not. And so it's a great responsibility to be a teacher. And I think when you set the stage for students to figure out who they are along the way, I think you can kind of support some of those ideas with regard to peer groups and cliques causing issues with bullying and eating disorders, and things that are mentioned in the Woolfolk text for this chapter. So again, there's lots of good teacher resources in the book on chapter 3, but I think we just have to be conscientious as a teacher, what we do, how we conduct ourselves, and that we can really provide support for children in the classroom at all ages. So anyway, if you have questions or comments, please let me know. Email's always available. I'm always on Google Hangouts. During the day, it's always on and ready to go. So if you want to chat with me about any subject matter, let me know. I'm going to finish looking through all of your responses. I'm about halfway done with Module 3 discussion board. So that's about 60 responses. Anyway, have a great weekend, and I will talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.